Welcome to the SBR NHL Double Play of the Day video for Saturday, February 1st. Let's get the month right. Yes, I hear you, Train. I'm going to miss it.
Sorry, man, I'm going to mute that mic right now.
I just can't get enough of that. It just sounds so much like the train taking off. It is hysterical, but that's not a train. That's the wind outside Adam's apartment right now. But nevertheless, we've got the Saturday Play of the Day ready to rock and roll alongside Adam Booth, and we're back to our normal routine. Well, not necessarily in terms of shows. We've always been here Saturday, Tuesday, Thursday, but now we're going to get big cards now every day that we're on the air doing these videos. Saturday, Tuesday is going to be the usual big Tuesday card later this week, and same with Thursday. So a lot more to choose from. In terms of selection today, Adam's gone to the game between the Boston Bruins and the Minnesota Wild. We've got Boston minus 135 road favorites, total 5.5 shaded to the over in this game, courtesy of SBRodds.com. Make sure you're using SBRodds.com daily for the best odds page on the web to get the best line and price with all of your wagers. And as well, check out the SBR written content daily, SBRvideo.com/NHL. That's where you can find Adam Booth, Jimmy Murphy, and everybody that writes articles for NHL daily. SBRvideo.com/NHL. Bruins obviously involved last night against the Winnipeg Jets. What a feisty game. Wouldn't necessarily expect that. Two teams from opposing conferences, but man, there was some bad blood in that game. There were multiple fights in that game, some physical hits, big time intensity in that game with the Jets last night. Bruins end up victorious with the 2-1 win over the Jets last night. Minnesota, this will be their first game following the All-Star break. They haven't played since January 22nd, so we're looking at exactly a 10-day layoff for the Wild. That night they beat Detroit 4-2, their last game before the break. So a very, very tough Boston team coming out of the gate. In terms of with extended rest, Minnesota this year 2-3 in 5 games with extended rest. That's 3 days or more. 3-2 to the over in those 5 games. So they do have a 2-3 record, win-loss in terms of extended rest. Boston, on the other hand, coming in here after playing last night, second night of back-to-back. It's worth noting they're only 2-4, on the second night of back-to-back games. So you got two teams in sort of negative situations if you factor in how the Bruins have fared on back-to-backs and how Minnesota's fared on extended rest. But it does seem like the spot's a little bit more favorable for Minnesota just because of Boston coming off that intense game, took a little bit of a physical pounding with the physical nature of that game last night against Winnipeg. And Adam's saying we might indeed have a home underdog that's quite live here in this game. Adam, tell us why you like the Wild.
Sorry, I just had to unmute the mic. And again, apologies. Outside my house, there's, for those of you who do tune in regularly, this has been an ongoing meme throughout the season. The cable out there just loves to say hello whenever we have a live show. So apologies for that. I will keep it muted when Ian's talking, but nothing I can do when I have to open my yap. But yeah, so Wild Bruins. Interestingly, in their first meeting this season, the Wild I was on the Bruins, I believe, and the Wild had a 2-goal lead in the third period. Bruins scored, I think, 2 with the goalie pulled and maybe a power play in the final minute or two, went to overtime and won in overtime. That was one of those games where the Wild could look back and say, this is why we're, again, not in the playoffs this year. But tonight, we find them in situationally, I think, a good spot. Yes, they are returning with their first game after the break. We have seen some of the teams this week in their first game look very sluggish in the opening frame. Edmonton was one. Buffalo was one. There's been a number of teams that you'd say they need 60 minutes of effort from their guys to make sure that they're going to, keep their place in the standings. Wild are in the basement of the Central, and because Nashville has moved past them, but they're still very much in the race given how weak I still see the Pacific Division. And the number on them today is excellent, and they're facing a Bruins team that I mentioned in the article. Very physical game last night against the Jets. Kind of unexpected. Everybody was dropping the mitts. It was 60 minutes of what you might see as like the first game of a playoff series where, everybody's kind of trying to send a message early on in the series that we're going to stick up for our players. You can't run our goalie, chip him after the whistle. We see Marchand fighting the Ehlers, which was not at all what you would expect, I guess, from two skilled guys. So that was a very physical game, and it's a game where sometimes it leaves the team coming out of it with a win sort of not as focused or as I guess fresh into the next one, and that's a narrative. I'm not saying there's any guarantee to a story like that, but it does add value to what I see as a mini team that, yes, they might come out a little bit slow, but they shouldn't. If we're being honest, if the week, I mean, it's been a little bit over a week here actually for them, and so hopefully they come for a full 60. I mean, we saw what can happen if they play for 58 minutes and struggle in the last 2 minutes to get the puck out of their own zone. Boston is better in all areas of the ice. That's why they're the shorter road favorite. I think Boston is deserving of being on a favorite even on a back-to-back. But this is a Minnesota pass for me today, and I love the value of the dog here. In what is, as I said, situationally scheduling-wise, it's not a bad spot for them. It's not something that you're going to say that. I mean, a lot of my plays fall into this category of I didn't have it circled or highlighted, on the schedule before, the day before. I posted a number of plays on Twitter last night. Mini wasn't one that stuck out to me at that time. But going through the numbers in more depth today, I do like it. And so someone else mentioned in a group chat this morning that he was looking at the over. That's something I'm considering too.
I like that. I like the over actually personally in this game as well. I know it's Minnesota and they can be tricky to get over the total, but actually they were trending over the total going into the break. It's 5.5. The Bruins are after a really tough grinded out game last night. I could see them making some mistakes, and it's going to be a Lack, not Rask, in net for the Bruins tonight. And I don't care who's in net for Minnesota. Dubnyk and Stalock have both been giving up goals lately. So
the whole season though. I mean, Dubnyk especially, it's like, I don't know if it's just an age is catching up with him finally. I mean, he's been a workhorse for that team for years, and he's the reason that for the years that they got into the playoffs, they were there. But it certainly is sort of crashed and burned at times this season. So I would say over, no play on the total there. So that's my play, Ian. Yours
Minnesota.
Yours is one that I'm looking at as well. I did take Chicago last night. But because I think, Arizona is just struggling, not good out of in the last few weeks here against some pretty bad teams, actually. Why don't we get into yours now?
Well, Arizona's kind of owned Chicago this year, so I respect that. So that's why I'm not on Chicago. But at the same time, I'm not on Arizona either in this game. They're definitely leaking oil a little bit right now. This has been one of the rougher patches of the season for the Coyotes at the wrong time, as they're just trying to hang on to not only staying in the Pacific Division race, forget that, hanging on to a playoff spot, because here come the Chicago Blackhawks, the team they're playing, charging from behind and only 4 points behind Arizona now in the standings, making this a really big hockey game tonight for both of these teams. So Chicago and Arizona, I'm looking at the total in this game. Arizona minus 150, home favorites, total 6, shaded to the under. So I have over 6 in this game and at a nice little small plus price as well, which I like. And I like this total for a bunch of reasons. I mean, there's a couple totals I considered. I do like the Boston-Minnesota over. I like the Vegas-Nashville over. I gave that Nashville's just an over machine right now, and I gave that consideration. But I wanted to talk about this one because it's a good game. It's a marquee game. Two teams fighting for the playoffs. You look at, again, one of the things you got to focus on with teams coming out of the break. I want to know, how have they done from a win-loss standpoint with the extended rest, and how have they done from a totals perspective in the first game after extended rest. From a Chicago perspective, they are 4-1 to the over this season in 5 situations where they've had extended rest. So they have trended to higher scoring games off a long layoff. That's not surprising. Most of the league has trended to higher scoring games after a long layoff. Look at last night. Detroit Rangers, well, it didn't quite get over, but it got there with a push. Philly, Pittsburgh, layoff over the total. Vegas, Carolina, layoff over the total. The only layoff game that stayed under was Boston and Winnipeg, and there was some damn good goaltending in that game. But that's the only one. I mean, so it was a 3-1 night for the long layoff overs last night, and Chicago's in that situation here. Both of the previous meetings this year between Chicago and Arizona flew over the total with plenty of room to spare, 5-2 and 4-3 in those games earlier this season between these two teams. And what I like about the over in these kind of situations is I expect both teams, there's no pussyfooting around, as I like to say in a game like this. There isn't. There's that's an old term.
I am laughing aloud. I forgot my mic was muted. I'm just thinking, okay, that's a hockey term. I think I've seen that. Coaches
that means we don't ease into anything in a game like this. Okay, these are big points, and for Arizona, these are monstrous points because you need the 2 points in the worst way. You didn't play great going into the break. You got bombed by Edmonton. You lost to Anaheim and LA, two really bad teams, to be honest, in back-to-back games coming out of this All-Star break. You don't ease into this game. You be aggressive. You go after it. You try to win those loose puck battles, draw penalties, try to get on the board first. That's another thing Rick Tocchet's talking about. We got to score the first damn goal. We're falling behind too much in games. So when I hear coaches say we have to start better, got to get the first goal, that's over in my mind. I mean, because you're going to get that aggressive mindset. We got to attack. We got to get on the board first. Arizona's, I think, given up the first goal in like 4 or 5 straight games now. So that's got to stop, and it's probably a product of why they've been losing as of late. So Arizona, I think, can get after it. The Chicago defense is still not great. Florida lit them up before the break. They're still battling injuries back there, of course, Calvin DeHaan being the big one. And it's still a Chicago team that's capable of giving up goals. You could say, though, at the same time, it's an Arizona offense that's kind of sputtering right now, but maybe the Chicago defense coming in here, long layoff, sloppy turnovers, which has been really the prerequisite for most of these teams after a break. You'll see that maybe that sloppy defensive play from the Chicago Blackhawks. On the flip side, Chicago's offense, I got no issues with them. They're still very, very lethal, very, very potent with Kane, with Taves, with DeBrincat, with Dylan Strome, with Dominic Kubalik, who I don't know about Adam if I've mentioned it on this show, but I've been betting this guy to score goals in almost every Chicago game lately. Dominic Kubalik, and he has been unbelievable offensively. So I'll probably be betting that prop again tonight, Dominic Kubalik to score. I mean, there's plenty of weapons here. And Kirby Dach, the first-round pick, has played well in spurts. And Chicago's going to get some reinforcements back. Looks like Dylan Strome, who's been injured, might return to the lineup. Another offensive weapon.
Chicago is a bet-on team right now. Every team can be a bet-on team.
Well, they had a stinker before the break against Florida, but other than that, they played really well, yeah.
But that's going to happen. They weren't expected to be in the playoffs this year. They were expected to be like, and they aren't right now. But given some of the injuries that they had, some of the inconsistencies that they had early on, they're now starting to show that. Now, they could come to the All-Star break and then throw up 6 stinkers in a row, and all of this is for naught. But your play's on the total anyway, and it's more to do with the back end, I guess, of both teams and the offense that is rolling.
Yeah, and the back end of Arizona has to be talked about. It's declined. There's no question. I mean, they haven't played well for a week and a half. It's not the same stingy, stout defense we saw early in the season. Of course, it doesn't help them either that Darcy Kemper remains out. I can't say I've been enamored with the play of either Antti Ranta or Aiden Hill in net for the Arizona Coyotes either. So I think Chicago with their offense, I don't think Arizona, the way they've been trending defensively, is going to be able to shut them down. And on the flip side, look, Arizona's offense is better than this, okay? They're better than only getting 2 goals against LA and Anaheim in the last 2 games. They are. They've got better talent than that, especially since they got Hall, and you've got Kessel, and you've got Clayton Keller, and you've got Connor Garland. You've got better offensive capabilities in you. I think maybe a Chicago defense that's not the greatest and may not play well because you're off a long layoff, and that's where defenses are a little bit more vulnerable. And the total results for teams off the layoff in a break bear that out. And again, 2 previous meetings this year went over the total. So a lot of things added up to me, made sense. Over 6, even money price. I got plus 102 on it. Chicago, Arizona, over 6, plus 102 for my play of the day.
For me, it's over or nothing on that one. I have it at 4-3 Hawks, but it could just as easily be 5-2 Arizona here, because again, when you're dealing with a non-expected playoff team like Chicago is, and we saw it against Florida, which Florida was on the back-to-back there too. It should be noted. So, but no, I agree with the play there, Ian, and you didn't. Another thing that you're doing here is you didn't get the over 5.5 in the Arizona LA game, and you're trusting your read on the team to go with it again, and I always respect that. So, yeah.
Before we wrap it up, we'll wrap up the show in just a second. Bryce in the chat asking about Ducks over. Hey, you got to pay attention to the first period over trend with Anaheim. It doesn't matter the opponent, doesn't matter what Anaheim does or doesn't do, doesn't matter who they play. Their first periods are flying over the total. Anaheim's on a 12-1 first period over trend in the last 13 games. 12-1 to the over in their last 13 games. The first period over. So that's over 1.5 goals in the first period. You can get another really good price with that. I know it's LA that they're playing tonight. This could be the night where maybe that streak ends because, LA, they sometimes play low scoring at times. But Anaheim's just, Anaheim's going into these high-scoring games lately. Their defense and John Gibson is nowhere near as good this year as it's been in the past. So keep an eye on that trend. It's in play again tonight. If you've been riding it, I'd say keep riding it. Anaheim Ducks first period overs, 12-1 in the last 13 Anaheim games.
Yeah, that's a hell of a trend. I'm not big on those, but ride it while it's hot. Ride it until the price starts to become one of those -160s, -170s. Then you start seeing a 2, and then you're chasing the line after that. So just ride it, because the expectation is it's not like it's a Chicago team or a Tampa team with these high-powered offenses where you kind of expect that there could be goals every night. It's a Ducks team that has a anemic offense for most of the season. So, yeah, go with it while it's running, I guess.
Exactly right. And you're right. The primetime DJs, hey, there's a familiar name. Yes, Alex will have that. Alex B. Smith. Of course, Alex B. Smith, me, Andrew, the group. We used to do Ice Guys on this SPR. We're on another platform now. Yeah, Alex B. Smith will definitely have Anaheim over first period. I don't even have to look at his card. He will absolutely. He's Mr. First Period over, that guy. He keeps track of all those first period over records too. So he keeps track of who's hot, who's not when it comes to those first period totals trends. So yeah, I don't doubt that for a second. He'll be on that play for sure. Anaheim first period over. All right. So to recap, before we end the show, Adam has Minnesota +119 against Boston, and I'm on Chicago, Arizona over 6 +102. Again, make sure you hit thumbs up if you like the content. Make sure you're checking out SBRodds.com every day for the best odds service available. And again, for all the NHL written content that SBR provides, including Adam's work on a daily basis, that's SBRvideo.com/NHL to check that out. We'll be back on Tuesday, 10:15 a.m. Eastern time for the next edition of the NHL SBR Play of the Day video double play. For Adam Booth, I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. And good luck with your wagers there. Good luck with your wagers tonight. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you again on Tuesday.